what's up? This is K. You are locked into 94.3 Radio 1. This is One World, your station. And, sorry, is this my job or not? Right about now.
All right. So, folks, it's not Radio 1 FM, but it's the Guiding Voice. And you are tuned into the Guiding Voice itself. And there's a surprise episode for all of you. And we are super, super privileged and happy to host RJK, part of the Guiding Voice. And I would like to acknowledge Kavita for connecting me with RJK. And now let's know a little bit about RJK. Karan Machado, better known as RJK, is the host of Good Morning Bangalore that airs every weekday on 94.3 Radio 1, India's only international radio network, and TFM Oman. He's currently the youngest radio show host in Bangalore and has done everything right from interviewing Bollywood stars to international stars like Jason, Shaggy, Harvey, Mike, and even celebrity master chefs from MasterChef Australia. In fact, I'm nervous to interview RJK. He's been awarded the Communicator of the Year 2020 radio presenter by the Public Relations Council of India, PRCI, and also as one of the top 4 emerging radio content creators in India from Pepper Content. He's an MC, host, teacher, actor, both on camera and on stage. He has done musicals that he's toured India with, television ads for brands like Fast Track and Kingfisher, OnePlus, and more. He runs online mentorship programs in radio journalism, acting and storytelling, improv comedy, communication, public speaking with companies like Unheard India and KYT Academy. In today's episode, let's chat with RJK. This is the Guiding Voice podcast series, the Guiding Voice for a better future. Folks, I'm your host, Navin Samala, a fellow IT professional on a mission to shape the careers and lives of millions across the globe. In every episode, we interact with industry experts or thought leaders or academicians or coaches, or sometimes we'll have special guests like RJK across the globe to drive some insightful conversations that will help each one of you learn amazing stuff. Also, we share an interesting trivia or a fun fact towards the end. And folks, you'll acquire more knowledge by tuning into the Guiding Voice than any other podcast in this space. Thank you so much for joining me today. And today we are going to have a casual conversation about RJK, talking about his journey as a radio host, winning the Best Communicator Award, and also how he has started his podcasting, so on and so forth. And we are extremely pleased to have RJK part of the Guiding Voice journey in shaping the careers and lives of millions across the globe. Okay, I'm super duper excited. Welcome to the Guiding Voice.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the lovely introduction. I appreciate it.
Thank you. And as I said, I'm super pleased. And let's get started, Kay.
Sure.
Maybe you can share with our audience the top 3 things that have contributed to your professional growth.
Oh man, I'm a big advocate of. So 3 things, if I had to pick out, and I always tell this to my interns as well. The 3 things is just one, you got to be obviously passionate about what you do every day. You got to absolutely enjoy it. So that's one. Number 2 is just putting down your head and doing the hard work. And the third becomes consistency. I can't say that all of the time I have all 3 going for me. But if you have at least 2 of the 3 going for you, I feel like those will help you in your professional journey quite a bit. I think it's very underrated to not have, like when people say, I don't need any of these, I just need money. Money will only take you so far. And then you'll be left at a place where you're like, okay, there's no meaning to this. I don't want to do this anymore. So those 3 things, consistency, hard work, and passion, I feel like they are so underrated. And just working towards being not the best in the industry, but the best version of yourself in that industry. And that is more than enough. You don't need to compete with anybody else. You need to compete with yourself. You need to be better than you were yesterday. You need to be better than you were the day before. And that comes with those 3 things that I just said every single day.
Awesome. Hard work, consistency, and being better than what you were yesterday. Super. So, okay, have you really dreamt of becoming an RJ when you were a kid? And how did this happen?
No, man. It was just a mistake or just a series of events that kind of just unfolded and I just kind of went with it. So what happened was I did a bachelor's in media, English and psychology. Then I did a postgrad in film, television and digital video production. I also did an internship with the guys down at where I work right now when I was in undergrad. And just when I was at the end of my film school, I got a call from them saying that, hey, there's this vacancy. Do you want to do it? And I was also in a space that time where I was like, maybe I don't want to do film every day. Right? I enjoy it. I love it. It's a beautiful place to be. But every day, probably not. So I just took anything that came my way. So I took up that, and literally I have not switched companies for 7 years. For 7 years of my working career, I've done multiple roles in the same company. And currently now, of course, I host the morning show on Radio 1. In addition to a bunch of other consulting that I do on outside for various other companies and things like that. And podcasting being a journey that has taken off as well. And of course, improv comedy is something that I enjoy doing with a group of mine called Improvise. So yeah, bunch of different things. It's nicer to be a jack of all trades.
Yeah, absolutely. And now talking about this being an RJ, you talk, I mean, you are supposed to talk a lot. How do you keep yourself up to date? Because when I imagine, like, if it's a podcast, it's a 1 hour, or probably not even 1 hour, like 20-25 minutes, we do research for about 1-2 hours, that's okay. But you guys speak on day-to-day basis. How do you keep yourself up to date?
I don't, man. Like, in fact, I'm always I'm always scrolling multiple things. I'm always looking at various things online. I feel it's a matter of just consuming news and knowledge from the right sources. You can either choose to spend time on Instagram scrolling through reels, or you can listen to a quality podcast that genuinely gives you value, or an audiobook that you feel gives you value. A lot of times I feel for a lot of professionals, you're left in doing these mundane tasks, right? Like transport, you have to get from point A to point B to do your work. Maybe you're doing stuff around the house, things like that. And then, so from that perspective, you really, how do I say this? You really need to see how can I maximize time there, right? So for me, I'm a very audio person. So I always have something in my ear that I'm listening to, whether it's an audiobook or I've automated my voice assistant to kind of give me all I need in the morning in terms of news and things like that. So I do that every morning, and it's become like a process that I thoroughly enjoy, because I feel I can have a conversation with anyone about anything. You know what I mean? Yeah. And it's a matter of just being fairly well read, and I'm not saying like an expert on topics, but you got to know what the heck is happening around you.
Yeah.
And that also is very dependent on how you consume stuff. You know what I mean? So yeah, the more you consume, the quality, the more quality you consume, the easier it is to kind of talk about those topics. So yeah.
That's awesome. Okay, you have interviewed many celebrities, right? How is it like interviewing them, and how do you approach, and what kind of preparations happen behind the scenes?
I'll be honest with you. I used to prep a lot, okay, in the past, probably in the first year, second year of me kind of doing this, but I don't anymore. I'm being extremely honest with you, because I've realized that like when you speak to a celebrity, like a lot of times they're happy to talk about their work and the project that they're doing and stuff like that, but a lot of times they just want to be spoken to like normal people. You know what I mean? They're a little tired of people glorifying them and things like that. So if you talk to them like a regular person and have fun, like if I was catching up with you, I wouldn't ask you about your work. I would ask you about what are your other interests. I would ask you about, what keeps you going. What do you feel strongly for? Whatever, right? We'd have fun conversation. We wouldn't be about, tell me what was your, how much you paid in IT returns last year. Like I want to ask you that kind of rubbish, right? So I found that, like, last night, without taking the name of a celebrity, I interviewed somebody in the UK, this really big artist and DJ. And when I was speaking to him, I did know we're talking about his brand new track and stuff like that, but didn't really prep too much, because I feel like too much prep is also a problem, right? Yeah. It doesn't allow conversation to flow freely, right? And the best conversations come out when it flows freely. How often do you sit with a friend and have a great conversation and you're like, oh, because we planned this conversation, it went so well? No, it never happens. It's always because it happens on the fly. So yeah, I get nervous? The answer is not anymore. Probably my first year I used to. Now I'm not mesmerized by stars. I'm not mesmerized by big celebrities anymore. I look at them as people, right? And the minute you start looking at someone else as just a regular person, conversation will flow much better, I feel.
Makes sense. Yeah, thanks for sharing those insights. Now, the other day I interviewed an author, Fred Joel, from the States, and he was talking about this improv comedy, and I think you are also into this improv comedy, and he mentioned everybody should get into that, so that you'll actually become
100%.
free.
I agree
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. So probably that's where I'm coming from. Like, what has been your experience and what's your recommendation on this improv?
Right. First things first, everybody makes fun of the fact that people say improve comedy. It's improv, which is short for improvisation.
Mhm.
Right. So improvisational comedy, because improve comedy would mean that I have to improve my comedy. So, anyways, so that's what I like to note. But yeah, so from a perspective of improv comedy, I feel like improv comedy has also set base principles for me to live my day-to-day life. Improv comedy runs on three beautiful cardinal rules, which are yes and, which is saying yes to someone and adding value to what they say, is to making your partner look good, and the third one is to break all rules. And just like, there are no rules, in fact. And also being in the moment and being present. I feel like if we all live life like that and live each moment, like right now, Naveen, when I'm sitting here and talking to you,
Yeah.
I'm fully present here. I'm not
Yeah.
thinking about, even though you might have seen my maid walking around in the background and stuff like that, as we do this from home. But I'm fully present in conversation with you, and I think that when you can do that, right, when you can be fully focused and in the moment with someone, real magic happens. And also, improv comedy as an art form teaches you that failure is okay, because you're failing constantly. It's a lot like entrepreneurship, if I could say so. Failure is the biggest lesson, and it teaches you so much, and makes you like a stronger person. In fact, so much so that you're happy to welcome failure, because you know that it only means more learning.
Excellent. Yeah. I want to try that. Maybe.
You should come to one of our jam sessions. It's really fun.
Absolutely.
We go crazy. We go mad. We have a lot of fun. It's so much fun, really.
Sure. Maybe I'll join for sure. Now let's talk about this radio journalism and who is it suitable for? What kind of career opportunities are there in that space?
Who is it suitable for? Like, I don't think there's one type of person that it's suitable for, because there are different roles within, say, for example, the gamut of radio. Radio is no longer just radio. Radio is also now a digital content creation company that has terrestrial offshoots of radio, right? Which is where the entire ecospace has evolved into. I feel like you can be anything, but the biggest mistake I'd say people make is they walk into a radio station, or they walk into a radio company saying that I want to be a radio jock. Biggest mistake ever. Because who knows, you might not be a great host, but maybe you're a great producer.
Yeah.
Right? Maybe you're a great music manager. Maybe you're a great client solutions executive. Maybe you're a great salesperson. Right? Maybe you're a great in the labeling, music labels part of it. So there are so many facets and dimensions that exist within like a radio content creation company, that you, by saying that I want to do just this role, you're doing yourself more injustice than you are anyone else, right? And there are some people who are genuinely just have the flair to do, to host, like you can see, and some people you're like, they would be better doing something else, but you have to discover that for yourself. Like when I joined, I looked at, hey, wow, it'd be cool to host a show, but I was also cool on learning everything, right? I wanted to genuinely be, how do I say this, like I wanted to be knowledgeable about everything that's happening across the entire company. That's helpful. So I feel like for anybody wishing to get into a certain role, I suggest they don't. I suggest you just get into a company and start experiencing what all they have to offer, and then you kind of figure out, okay, maybe I like this more than this, I like that more than that, and that's where your journey will really start.
So it's all just make an entry and then decide for yourself, kind of. All right.
Yeah, and be open to learning, because I think that that the minute you stop learning, you're not doing anyone any good. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And now let's talk about your podcast. How did that happen? You have already been RJ. And why did you get into podcasting?
So the first podcast I launched, which is the one that you and I were actually talking about before we started this recording, is a podcast called Off Air with K, because I realized that the conversation with me a lot of times are very guest based. I'm speaking about what the guest wants. I'm speaking about, not what the guest wants. I'm speaking about within context of a guest. I'm speaking about in context of a client, perhaps, and things like that. And it started with the thought that I have these wonderful conversations with my wife, which are deep and meaningful and exciting and enjoyable. And I'm sure there are more people out like us out there who have these conversations and who are yearning for these conversations as well, but they don't have the space to kind of have these conversations. So we started the podcast as just kind of a passion project, to be honest. Just to like, let's have fun. Let's just see where this goes. And this is everything I can't say on the radio, and that's how we kind of talk about it. So we started it like that, and we really, really enjoyed the conversation like that. And and that's how it began. And then I realized that the podcasting business has a different audience, which I'm sure you know. Typically with radio, they are listening for a certain amount of time, and then they're maybe tuning out because their journey is over, or some people listen to it at different spaces and whatnot. So so I mean, from that perspective, it's a very different audience. It's a more talk-based audience, or depending on how you kind of have your podcast. But yeah, I feel like it's also just reaching a different audience and trying out different things. So it's about it.
I love those conversations around cloud with silver lining and the kind of examples, and especially one actress that you interviewed, she was talking about that sexual harassment, and she was very open. They were very deep and meaningful. I really enjoyed those, and I'm going to check out.
I'm glad you did.
Yeah,
glad you did. Thank you.
Yeah. Now let's talk about something about around RJing, in terms of if somebody is aspiring to become an RJ, what are some tips that you'd like to share with them?
Like I said a little while earlier, don't aspire to be an RJ. The reason that I'm saying that is because, like I'm saying, from a perspective, maybe you're not meant to be a host, maybe you're meant to be a producer and things like that. But if you figure out that, okay, maybe I'm good at this, and maybe you're going down that path of being a host, I feel like you need to start finding your own voice. And let me be a little bit clearer when I'm kind of talking about that, because I feel like that's a little vague. What I'm trying to say is that a lot of times when we try and speak as a host, as an anchor or whatever, you it's human tendency that we tend to mimic other people. Probably even, Naveen, the way that you host, you've probably heard other podcasts and you're trying to, host in a similar manner because you're like, oh, I liked how that person did that. I think I would do this thing. But I went through this weird journey where you have to understand and be like, do I want to be like a second copy of someone else, or do I want to find my own voice and host the way I want? It's not an easy process. I'll be honest with you. It takes a lot of time. But when you discover your own voice and your tone and the way you sound, I feel like that is a tip that I could give to everyone. Just find your own style, your own voice, your own, don't try and be someone else. But that also comes with doing it a lot. So say, for example, now, the internet is a small little oyster, and, and that the world is your oyster, and from that perspective, so what you should be doing is you should be trying like a lot of things. I mean, just like how you are sitting in a room right now, you have a mic, you have your headset, you have a laptop in front of you. What stops me from, as a person starting out, from interviewing, say, my parents, from interviewing, say, I don't know, maybe my friends, right? So there is so much you can try and experiment, and just like, you have to really, coming back to our first point, which we started off this entire conversation with, which is consistency. You need to consistently host and improve those skills. You can't just be like, wake up and be like, watch a couple of YouTube videos and be like, I'm great at this. That doesn't work. So you got to genuinely do it every day. The reason that it's so second nature for me now is because I've done this every day for like 7 years. So it comes naturally. So when you were asking about prep and stuff like that, I don't need to prep anymore because I'm always prepping in my head, if that makes any sense. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah. That's great. Wonderful. So this has been a kind of serious conversation around RJing, podcasting, and now let's lighten up the mood of our audience. I'm going to quickly open a rapid fire round if you are okay.
Let's do it.
All right. Wonderful. So what has been your childhood fantasy? Okay.
Weirdly, to be an astronaut. Like, I still remember one of the first things I wanted to do when I was a kid was like, I want to be an astronaut. And that's just because I used to watch a lot of like movies in space, and I was be like, oh my god, that would be so cool. So yeah, my childhood fantasy was to be an astronaut. It didn't work out because I realized somewhere in the 7th standard that you need to know science well, and I failed in all sciences. So I was like, this is probably not happening. So yeah.
Quite interesting. What is your favorite book?
Ooh, tough question, man, because I don't know. I don't have a favorite book. I have a couple of favorite books. I I genuinely enjoyed, and every time I think of a favorite book, I don't know why, but I just keep coming back to this one. This is such a like a you know weird thing to kind of say. I genuinely enjoyed To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee
Yeah.
because I studied it in school. Like we studied it as a text for school, and I got a chance to actually delve into the depths of the text and the author and things like that. And I think when you do that, you just enjoy the book a whole lot more. Maybe that's why I like it so much. But that's one book that I love, To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee. It's beautiful. It's just, oh man, it's an unbelievably amazing book. And another book that I enjoy a lot of comics, if that helps. But I don't know if people consider that books, but proper novel, kind of hardback kind of this thing, I'm still going to go for To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee. I'm actually reading, as we speak right now, I'm reading Sapiens. It's tough, man, because it's a beautiful book, but it's like a hard read. You know what I mean? Like you need a lot of mental power to kind of stick by that book. But I'm enjoying that. I also recently read. Oh man, one sec. Now it's bothering me. Now I got to check the name. I'm going to tell you the name in like a second. But basically, I read. It's in my library. I read. I read Atomic Habits. By James Clear. Atomic Habits was another book that I really enjoyed. Yeah, those are probably. I know you asked for one book. Sorry, I gave you quite a few.
No, these are great. I heard a lot about Sapiens, and many people who started that they couldn't finish it. I don't know.
It's a very tough read. I'm still reading. Dude, I've been reading it in parts for like 6 months now because I can't read. It's a very heavy book. So yeah, but it's lovely. It's beautiful.
Yeah. All right. Now, can you describe yourself in one word?
Painful.
Come on.
I would say irritating. But no, man. If I'm being extremely honest with you, that's on a lighter note. But describe myself from one word, I'd say disciplined.
Oh, yeah.
And the reason I'm saying that is I'm a big stickler for time. So like I have my entire days planned out for me as to what I'm doing at what time, whether it's professionally or personally. I enjoy it. I love my routine. I love discipline. I think organizing your day is the most underrated task that people have. So yeah, I'd say discipline.
Yeah. All right. Great. So now let's talk about your name K. How did it happen? Like.
Oh my God, that's okay. So I've been with the company with my current company through 4 brand revamps over 7 years. When I just joined, they were revamping Bollywood into what they call Neo Bollywood. So I was also a host on the Bollywood station for some time. And then when we went international, so we did the ramp from Bollywood to Neo Bollywood and from Neo Bollywood to international. So when we switched to international, they wanted to completely do face, new imaging, new lineup, everything. But I was the only old jock that still remained on the team. So they're like, we can't stick with your name. We got to change your name. And I was very against it. I was like, no, please. So my CEO at the time, he suggested it, and I hated it because he's like, every time you go on air with the line, you have to say, hey, this is K. And I was like, are you crazy? Like, please, like, really don't, like, how disgusting are you? And then weirdly, it worked, man. Like, it really, really worked. And now when people ask me, hey, what do we call you? I prefer K over Karan. I only hear the word Karan when I'm extremely angry. When my parents are extremely angry. So, yeah.
All right. So last one for the rapid fire, K. What is one electronic gadget that you like to see or maybe invent yourself given a chance?
Nice. Okay. Wow, this is a tough one, though. Because I think there are too many. There are too many that... So have you seen the movie Spy Kids?
No, not really.
Okay, so if you've seen the movie Spy Kids, these Spy Kids got like this thing that they wear on their hand that when they pull it up like this, it gives them like a whole digital interface and a holographic kind of perspective. So say, for example, I'm looking at my messages, my email and things like that. I'm looking at basically everything, all information. Imagine that in a hologram on your wrist.
Right, yeah.
Right? So, or if you've seen The Flash, as a TV show or a comic, you've probably heard of something called Gideon.
Yeah.
In Flash, so which is a holographic artificial intelligence kind of gadget, like this AI based hologram that is like that knows everything. I would love to invent something like that because I mean it's so cool and trippy, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. The reason I ask is this is a kind of gives ideas to startup enthusiasts over there and all. And
Dude, if anyone invents a hologram AI based assistant for everything, you can take all my money. I will buy it from you.
Yeah, here we have an investor. Come on, folks.
Yeah, come on. I mean, I don't have much, but like I'll give you whatever I have.
Excellent. All right. So that was a fabulous rapid fire round. And before I let you go, one final question for this conversation, K. What is your one piece of advice for those aspiring to make big in their careers or lives?
Am I allowed to use profanity in this podcast? No, right? No, I'm genuinely asking. No, my advice would be don't be I don't know how to say this. I'm trying to censor this and say it. Okay, don't I'm really trying to censor this and say because I don't know another way to say this. Don't be a 4-letter word for male genitalia. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And don't be a person who hoards knowledge.
Yeah.
Right. And so 2 things I would say. One, be a little kinder to people around you. Okay. And try and understand where they are coming from, the background that they are coming from before judging them on their work and what they put out there and things like that. So be a little kinder to people. And number 2, never, ever, ever hoard knowledge. Like it's a very old style of working where you feel I know everything and I'm not gonna tell anybody, right? Yeah. I'm not gonna tell them my secrets of how I do stuff and stuff like that. Please, if you're listening to this, share knowledge freely.
Yeah.
You have nothing to lose. Knowledge is at your fingertips. It's in your right now. It's what you do with the knowledge that matters.
Yeah.
So please share knowledge freely. If you have expertise, which is one of the reasons I wanted to, when you reached out, I said yes automatically because I feel like we don't share knowledge freely.
Yeah.
We hoard and we think that, if I tell this person my secret, then they'll like, no, just please share knowledge freely. And more than that, when you're in a conversation or interaction with a certain individual, personally, professionally, be a little kinder to them because you never know where they have come from.
Yeah.
Just like they probably never know where you have come from.
Yeah.
Right? We all have our own baggage. We're all dealing with our own issues. There's nobody on this entire planet who is free from worries and free from problems. So while you are dealing with individuals, be kinder and don't hoard knowledge. Share with everyone freely.
That's amazing tip. And yeah, it has been a fascinating conversation. Thank you so much, Kay, for being part of the Guiding Voice journey in shaping the careers and lives of millions across the globe. Really appreciate your time. I'm super excited actually to have you part of this show.
Thank you, Navi. This has been really fun. And thank you for taking out the time. I appreciate it.
Yeah, right. Thank you. So folks, before we move into the trivia section, here is a small request to you. In case if you have loved the episode and found it useful, please share with at least 3 of your friends or colleagues who can benefit from the Guiding Voice. Also, if you haven't subscribed to us, please subscribe from the app where you have tuned in from so that you will be notified about all the future episodes. Thank you so much in advance. Now, let's cruise into the trivia segment of today's episode. So today we had an celebrity guest, RJK, who was talking about his experience in terms of RJing, podcasting and all. Now, let's take a step back and understand what is this broadcasting all about. Right, and what are the origins of the term broadcasting? The word broadcasting comes from farming. Yes, having done the research and all. And what I found is it is basically a mid-18th century agricultural term, which means wide scattering of seeds. And the word didn't become a term related to radio until the 20th century, when the first radio broadcasts were created. Like with broadcast sowing, radio broadcasting also involves this large scattering of stuff, radio waves, songs, entertainment, and many more. So does this mean all radio broadcasters are technically farmers? We aren't sure, but it's cool to know where the term comes from. That's all for today. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm your host, Navin Samala, a fellow IT professional and a passionate learner on a mission to make a difference in the careers and lives of millions across the globe. Until next time, bye bye. See you all in the next episode with another wonderful guest.